The United States now owes more money than any nation in human history. Over $38 trillion. That number is so large, it almost doesn't feel real. But here's the real question. Does this debt actually matter? Because depending on who you ask, this is either a ticking time bomb or something we've been living with for decades. Today, we're breaking this down from the beginning. No politics, no fear, just history and facts. By the end of this video, you'll understand where US debt comes from, why it exploded, and what it means for inflation, interest rates, and markets.
Believe it or not, US debt is not a modern problem. The United States first borrowed money in the late 1700s, right after the Revolutionary War. Alexander Hamilton believed debt could be useful, as long as it stayed manageable. And for a long time, it did. In 1900, US debt was under $3 billion. After World War I, about $25 billion. After World War II, it jumped to roughly $260 billion. But something important happened. The economy grew faster than the debt, and America entered one of the strongest growth periods in history.
For decades, debt stayed stable compared to the economy. But in the 1970s and 80s, everything changed. The US left the gold standard, government spending expanded, taxes were cut, and globalization reshaped manufacturing. By 1980, debt reached $900 billion. Then it accelerated. 2000, $5.7 trillion. 2008, $10 trillion. 2020, $23 trillion. And now, over $38 trillion. This wasn't one president, it wasn't one party. It was decades of structural deficits and emergencies. Here's the truth. Debt isn't the real danger. Interest is. For years, borrowing was cheap. Interest rates were near zero. But that era is over. As rates rose to fight inflation, interest costs exploded. The US now spends hundreds of billions every year just paying interest. This creates a loop. More debt, more interest, bigger deficits, even more debt. This is why people are paying attention again. The US is not a normal borrower. It borrows in its own currency. It controls its central bank, and it issues the world's reserve currency. So default is unlikely, but inflation, currency debasement, and slow economic decline are very real risks. Nations rarely collapse overnight. They fade slowly. High debt environments tend to favor hard assets, scarce assets, inflation hedges. That's why gold, Bitcoin, real assets, and pricing power stocks become more important in these times. Meanwhile, bond markets grow more sensitive, rates become volatile, and policy becomes reactive. Debt doesn't crash markets, it changes the rules. History shows only 4 ways nations handle massive debt: grow faster, inflate it away, default, or repress rates. The US will likely use a mix. The takeaway isn't fear, it's awareness. Debt shapes policy. Policy shapes markets. Markets shape your money. The US national debt is not just a number. It's a story decades in the making. If you want more data-driven breakdowns like this, make sure you subscribe. Understanding this early puts you ahead of most people. Thanks for listening.